Welcome to LCS Talks. I'm Berkley Glazer, and I'm the principal of Langley Christian Middle School. And today at the table, I have my co-host, Kevin Merchandani, who is our Director of Instruction for K-12. We have our elementary school principal, Lori Carpenter, and we have our high school principal, Joel Ditson. Welcome to the table. Kevin, take it away.
Yeah, it's so great to have our three principals here to wrap up what has been a pretty interesting, incredible, and I don't know, it's really hard to describe this year. I think that's really what we're trying to talk about and put a bit of an understanding of what's been happening this year and to share that with our community. So we're really excited to have our three principals talking through how they have been impacted and the work that we want to celebrate from our educational community. So what I would love to hear first from each of the principals is just to talk about who they are really briefly here, to introduce. We've heard from Mr. Ditson at some point a few times here. We've heard from Mr. Glazer a few times, and Mrs. Carpenter, it's awesome to have you as well too. But just maybe over to Mrs. Carpenter first. Tell us about you. You're in your first year as the elementary principal. What's your history here at LCS?
My history at LCS. I've been teaching at the middle school for 14 years. Mm-hmm. This is my 15th year at Langley Christian. The last couple of years, also the assistant principal at the middle school. And this is my first year at the elementary campus in the role of principal.
That's awesome. And Mr. Glazer, what's your history here?
I've been here, same as Lori, 15 years. We started together, and we worked at the middle school together. I'm still here, and running the middle school.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Ditson?
This is my third year at the high school, 2 years in the assistant principal role, and this is my first year in the principal role. 2 COVID years, though, so I'd say that actually counts as 10 years.
For certain.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. So let's paint a little bit of the landscape of some of our own experiences here. I'm inviting each of our principals to share a little bit of their own metaphors. I'm going to start with my own here as I think about being new to my role this year. So it's been a full school year. And what's really interesting, and some of our listeners might know that I am an alum from LCS. I did grade 8 to grade 12. I completed grade 8 to grade 12 here at LCS. And so did my younger brother and younger sister as well. And for me, the metaphor that came to my mind was, our listeners might be familiar with the monomyth Joseph Campbell. And it's kind of the narrative that's built into the fabric of many stories that we tell. It's about the hero coming into a story or an adventure, and the hero meets all these different mentors and people in their lives. They face adversities and challenges. They go through this kind of death and rebirth kind of image, and they come back to life, and they're newer and better. And what I find really compelling about Joseph Campbell's monomyth is that it somewhat reflects the biblical story of creation, of fall, redemption, and restoration. And for me, as I think about that this year, we have been through this experience with COVID, with developing our Bible curriculum, of going through and developing our podcast, going through a lot of learning together. And it's had this feel of trying to understand what we're trying to create and to see all along this kind of rebirth experience of, hey, what do we mean and how do we do this well as a community? So what I find really compelling about Campbell's image here is that we find ourselves thinking that we're the heroes in our own story, but really all along it's the mentors and the people in our lives that have actually played that role of protagonist too. So I find myself this year really just so thankful and grateful for the people that have been involved with my own learning, the people who have shaped me, from the people in the K-12 Bible team that we've talked a little about in one of our previous episodes, from the opportunity to work with our principals and our administrative team. And it's been really encouraging for me to see that all along that God is doing something amazing in and through the people that have shaped us and formed us. So let's take some time here, and I'm going to invite our principals to share a little bit of their metaphors. And Lori, I'll start with you.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Although, side note, long before Kevin attended Langley Christian, I attended Langley Christian for grade 6 and 7. So, yeah. So I was thinking about my year and what a year this has been. I was thinking about, my dad builds houses, so I'm familiar with the construction metaphor. And so thinking about how the changing landscape of this year with COVID, with new administration, with new teacher teams, just really having to learn a whole new set of tools and strategies as the landscape keeps changing, and having to be adaptable and flexible. Also thinking about building, just rebuilding relationships, rebuilding teams, working with families and kids as we rebuild community and a sense of togetherness. Also just building structures and foundations that support teachers.
That's great. So with your father, did he ever bring you to the job site and get you to swing a hammer?
I have some memories of sitting on the pile of broken pieces of wood that were scraps and building things, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that Mr. Glazer spent part of his weekend doing a little bit of work building some cabinets as well too.
Yeah, love construction.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing there, Lori. Berkley, over to you.
All right. For me, the metaphor of a ski hill comes to mind. So I hope I'm not stealing Joel's metaphor, but he's a big skier. If I did, you're going to have to go with another one. So the idea, what came to my mind is, how the slopes graduate in difficulty. So the beginning of the year, I'd say I was on the top of the hill looking down a black diamond. The slope looked pretty steep and pretty ominous. And then as we got into the year, and as you mentioned, Kevin, we were in the second year of COVID, and I think really the anxieties of our parents really came out in terms of polarized thoughts on all kinds of things, from vaccines to masks, and we had to deal with these issues. And also my slope got even steeper. I went to like double black diamond. And at some point during the year, I was like, I don't even know if I can make it down the hill. But then spring break came, and we got out of our pandemic and got into being able to talk about school again and education. And it feels like, we're back to, maybe some blue runs.
That's awesome. Thanks, Berkley. Joel, over to you.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, my metaphor is also hill-based, but also flat. There's mixes, because what had come to mind to me, and we talked about this actually in one of our admin meetings earlier this week, is the Tour de France and the way that the athletes and the cyclists push each other through that event. And there's all these ups and downs. You see the top of the mountain at the end of the day, and it's leading up to that point, and there's been all these stages before it, but you're getting to that point, and then when you get to the end of the stage, you get a little bit of rest, and you're on to the next stage. It's the next round. This idea that there's these moments throughout the race, and I think our school year is like that too, where you kind of reach these points of maybe exhaustion, but you forge ahead. Difficulty, whatever it is, you forge ahead. You demonstrate your ability as a school, as a group, whether it's leading or teaching or students or parents, to persevere and ultimately succeed throughout the year. And that's kind of the metaphor I have this year. We've had these moments, and sometimes we're climbing a hill, sometimes we're on the flat, and some people are great at climbing hills, and others are great at going on flats. And we use that team, though, to get us to the end of the race. And then we have this big moment of celebration when we get to the end. And that's kind of where we are, I think, right now. We're right at that point. We're at the end of the stage.
Thanks, Joel. So what I'm picking up, generally speaking, here is that our resilience is really birthed out of the work that we've done as a community, and that we have become, and we've been shaped by the experiences that we've had and how we've managed that together. And so I'm really encouraged by these images that have left us with a little bit of hope, and we're going to come back to that idea in a little bit here. But I would love to hear from each of you what sort of growth you've seen in your staff this year, and what are some of the key stories that really highlight how we've become resilient communities, how we have grown as LCS, as a Christian learning community this year.
I think the thing that stands out the most to me since starting at the elementary last spring, there is a greater sense amongst our staff, I think, that there is a sense of optimism and forward thinking that we haven't had the capacity and room to consider in the past few years. The past few years have been heavy as we've waded through pandemic, and also lots of shift and change with teams and administration. But there are slivers of hope, of looking forward, and wonder and dreaming. And I think that's one of the most exciting things that I've noticed. The other thing is some of the structures that we've put in place really call staff into further collaboration. And I wasn't on the elementary campus before, so I don't know what it looked like before. I see lots of great work that they've done, so I'm assuming pretty good. But that's a huge thing that I've noticed this year, of teachers just diving into the work and the muck together and supporting each other, shoulder to shoulder, walking through the hard stuff and bringing really great things for kids.
Yeah, it's really encouraging to walk through hallways and you see teachers actually taking time to listen, to pray with one another, to recognize the challenges that we go through on a daily basis. And that takes a lot of vulnerability and care for one another. So yeah, that's really encouraging to hear about how your staff has come together.
Well, it's neat to see doing devotions in person again. This morning, Jamie Robertson was leading us in devotions, and she played a song, and spontaneously the staff just starts singing with it, and it's just hearing them worship together. That's just been such a wonderful thing to add back into our community, because that defines who we are and sets us on a path for the week of how we approach students and learning.
That's great. Joel, how about for you there?
Yeah, I think our growth in our staff, we've emphasized small shifts. We started our year, some of our Pro D around you don't have to make especially in a year like this, you don't have to make these gargantuan shifts in practice and how you operate and what you do to get changes. So we borrowed from that the idea of the aggregation of marginal gains, that we would make small little 1%ers here or there, and asked staff to look at their practice, look at whether it's their day-to-day, and what are a couple things that they can make these small 1% shifts in that over time shift significantly, because it can be tricky, as kind of Lori alluded to, where you have only this amount of capacity to deal with some of the things that are right in front of you, to then be very fired up and excited about a new initiative that a staff member wants to put in, but maybe not able to follow through on that because of the time demands and needs in order to actually get to that point. So we went, let's start small. Let's do these little things that will be impactful over time, as long as because consistency is very important to making the changes as well. So there's some basic pieces that, yourself, Kevin, and Patrick, our assistant principal, have put in around assessment and working with staff on growing their assessment practices and allowing the freedom to make those little changes throughout that improve overall education for our students. That would be a significant one for me that I've seen this year.
Yeah, to the two of you, any stories come to mind, highlights from your year with your staff?
Yeah, I think of two things. The first one is some of the teams that we've been able to work with, our curriculum team and our school-based team. Just the excitement that I hear from teachers who are participating on the teams, their willingness to dive in and question and wonder and learn and grow together, and then reach out and influence their broader grade level teams or department teams. We've been really able to work together and support and equip teachers in both those practices. But one of the other ones is really different. Anita and I have been hosting staff for dinners and different social gatherings over the year, just taking little groups every couple of weeks, having 4 or 5 people over for dinner. And that has just been such a fantastic way to connect and build relationship outside of school, because when we are in that relationship and community, it's easier to roll up our sleeves together and learn and grow as a fuller community.
Yeah, that's bringing to my mind one of my highlights was when Anita Wood, assistant principal in the elementary, brought that delicious treat. Remind me again what that was. It was
I don't know.
Taste of heaven.
Every single thing that you eat everything.
Yeah.
Everything she bakes and brings is amazing.
Yeah. Definitely a highlight. Thanks, Lori. Joel, any stories come to your mind for your staff this year?
Yeah, you're challenging me here, Kevin. If you asked me for some sort of number, I would probably pull it out of my head right now. I mean, it might be back to one of our staff days that we had earlier in the year, and we've focused on culture and community as a staff alongside what I was mentioning earlier. I think we had this whole day planned, and a significant portion of it was around building community and speaking into, similar actually again to what you mentioned, Lori. We did not plan this beforehand either, but about building community with staff and among one another. Yeah. And we had this opportunity where staff could tell us about their best at LCS, and they got to share what they saw in their colleagues and how they saw them doing great things in the school, and have that opportunity to affirm one another in the building and to say, I see you, I see what you're doing, and you're doing great things. And then we shared that among everyone. So everyone got to sit there and we read through and we shared all the pieces out. And then we spent some time, we had some staff in there. We spent some time in worship together, and it was just this like calm morning, positive, and you could just feel, and the commentary from people afterwards was that was something that was so necessary in that time. And it was earlier in the year when, we weren't always able to be together and we're very separate. So I think that would be a key story from the year, and just how our staff has shaped and moved throughout the year.
Well, you're really reminding me that this is a diverse community working towards unity by using the vehicle of learning. And as we learn about one another, we find God working through the giftings that we have, bringing us together and being able to find this balance of living in community together here and learning together in community. So Berkley, I would love for you to share now a little bit about what your staff learned and how that actually helped you in terms of your own formation this year.
Yeah, definitely, Kevin. I want to tie it back for our listeners to our season 1 podcast, where we talked about faith, sexuality, and identity. And if you haven't listened to that, you have to listen to season 1, just by the way. So for us as a staff, last summer I had our staff read the book by Preston Sprinkle called Living in a Gray World. And we realized that in terms of Soji, we really weren't talking about the issues, and we didn't know how to talk about the issues. So this year we set out on a quest with our PLCs, with middle and high school, and started to train our staff on how we're going to tackle these talks. And for my staff, especially, to see them be able to, no matter where they are on the spectrum of beliefs and understanding, that we could find some common ground in terms of how, as a school, are we going to approach and talk to kids about their sexuality, identity in Christ. And for me as well, I think it was one of my greatest learning experiences, because just to shape my background and my beliefs, just in terms of church attendance and things that were taught at church to me, and just being able to bring that into our reality of where we're dealing with kids now in this time and place.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about what was formative to you. What were the learning experiences that really shaped your thinking, in particular, Berkley?
Yeah, so for me, it's, when it comes to Sprinkle's book on living in a gray world. And I just love how he articulates in the beginning parts of that book about, here's what the Bible tells us about sexuality. And then here's how we need to deal and love on our kids and people around us. And to be able to, those two things, truth and reality, don't have to be at odds with each other, that they can work together. So that was sort of the biggest piece for me.
Yeah, definitely. And having those opportunities to be together as a staff, joined by Preston Sprinkle online and Mark Yarhouse, that really opened up the possibility that we could find some common language and ground to be able to make sense of these issues in a way that valued the people and the perspectives that are here, the families that are represented, the depth of Christian tradition and history that has given us an idea of what it means to follow after Christ. So that's really encouraging to hear. Lori and Joel, maybe over to you. What has been what have been some of the things that you have learned this year, and how have you grown as a learner?
That's an interesting question. When I took this opportunity to jump into the role of principal, I was looking for something that would challenge and stretch me. And man, did I get that. This has required so much stretching and growing in so many different ways. One of the things that stands out to me, though, is just really learning how to lean into doing the hard things with grace and in relationship, learning how to walk together with vulnerability, trying to bring our best for kids, giving them everything that we can, and learning how to put aside whatever big rocks that we're holding on to, but to roll up our sleeves and with grace and care for each other, just walking through together. I think that's some of the biggest things that stands out to me. Take on the hard things, but do it together with grace.
Yeah, what I've appreciated seeing this year in the elementary school is the level of collaboration that you've brought in, the level of feedback and structures that allow for teachers who we're teachers because we're developing an expertise and being able to be learners as well too. And I think you've really brought that understanding that we have a journey ahead to develop in our profession and to do work that builds on understanding that that comes from others, that is faithful to what it means to be a Christian educator in really thoughtful ways too. So I've loved seeing that. I think that's been a really impactful thing to me as well. Joel, how about you in your own journey this year? You're not new to being a principal. You were assistant principal last year, stepping into this principal role. How have you grown this year as a learner?
I think there's a couple things that come to mind. One would be just in like posture of myself and the day to day, and especially through some of the challenges of leading in a school through a pandemic, through transition times, making some of the changes we've made in our high school around whether it's scheduling or including, new Lightning Life kind of area and supports in the school, course offering different. There's all these kind of changes that we've navigated through, and I love that. I like to tinker with things, and I appreciate that. So that's part of who I am on that level. But also being grateful, which is going to sound weird, but for the challenges that presents as well too, and kind of seeing the peaks and valleys of the year through the lens of it's going to sound kind of cheesy, but like the beauty of the year in general, that there's these moments of up and down, and it can't be like when there's the tough moments and you need to be determined and poised and everything to get through it. Yeah. Well, those aren't like the worst, but that's just part of the natural flow of a year, and that this year, in whatever form it's come in, is 21-22 school year, and there'll probably never be another year just like it. So to be grateful for this year, how it happened and how it came out, and the great and rewarding and easy conversations, and the great and rewarding and challenging conversations, and everything in between. So I think that for me has been a shift in perspective throughout the year, to look at it all as one piece of the big picture.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed seeing the culture building pieces that you've really put into the schedule in terms of staff not only growing as professionals, but growing together, providing opportunities for self-reflection, for that self-reflection to encourage them to seek out how to build each other up. I think that's been a really valuable part of being on the high school staff. And I think it's really encouraging because in the education business, I think it's really important that we form people professionally, but also personally. We're on this journey of actually helping people to become more like Christ in their work. I think that's a really faithful way to think about what the Bible tells us about our work. So Berkley, why don't you tell us a little about how you have learned? You highlighted a few things. Anything else to add to that?
Oh, definitely. One key piece for me was right at the beginning of the year, we had Dave McVitie, who's our therapeutic counselor, talked to our staff. He actually did the first 3 devotions of the year, and he talked about Psalm 23 with our staff, and he presented it in light of how a shepherd actually works with sheep, and just really helped us interpret what that passage means. So for me, it was very formative in the sense that God leading us, providing all of our needs, and making sure that we don't want anything, and leading us through those challenging times and those dark times, and leading us through valleys where there's possible death, but God's taking care of us, and just being able to interpret what those images in the Bible mean. For instance, the one part about Psalms 23 I really didn't understand is that the Lord prepares a table for us, and in reality, a table is just the top of a plateau of a hill. Back in Israel, or in that area, and that's actually where there's good grass at certain times of the year, and that's where shepherds will take their sheep to eat. So these kind of things were very formative and enlightening for me.
Yeah, I'm excited that Dave will join us in our first episode when we're back, still in season 3 on faith, identity, and Christian formation. and we'll hear more about his vision for our school as we think about partnering with families to encourage our children's faith formation.
Yeah, and whenever you see him in person, he's got a great tattoo of Psalms 23 on his arm. He's got pretty much half sleeve, and it's awesome.
No, that's great. Awesome. Yeah, back to the three of you. What's been particularly formative to you in your faith this year? How has your faith been formed by the work that you've done, and how has that encouraged you in your work?
Well, I'll jump in here, Kevin. I think for me, as relates to work and what I do here at Langley Christian, I found actually we've done these morning devotions, and they're almost not so much devotions. We've called them faith walks, and it's an opportunity and every staff member essentially presents their faith journey and a testimony of sorts with the other staff every Monday morning. And similar to maybe Lori's dinners and things, it's been an opportunity to really connect, again, staff together, but for me personally, to see like the stories and the person behind the face, behind the smile, the teacher, the people that, I know that the listeners know as staff in our school, and what makes them who they are, what they've journeyed through, what's got them to the point where they're now here teaching in a Christian school in Langley. And I found that, that for me actually has really been a connection point to the school and to my faith as well. So that's been really neat, walking together and just building into a community of staff and people together here.
Thanks, Joel.
There was one teacher that was telling me this was her first year at our school, and how teaching on our community has really developed her own faith as she's participated in staff devotions, as she's been challenged to bring faith into the classroom and talk with her kids about faith. And it just reminds me how important it is for us to lean into that community of faith and stand with each other and support each other, and the privilege that we can do that in our workspace here.
Yeah, and for me, very much so in terms of just seeing God's faithfulness and how in all of the struggles and trials and tribulations that happen in our lives, God's there for us. And especially having to teach through a pandemic, if you would have told me that I'd experience a pandemic and then I'd have to lead a school through a pandemic, I would have gone, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, none of us had.
Nobody wants to do that.
Admin training on that piece.
No, not at all. And I will never see another pandemic in teaching because I'm retiring in 3 years. So, I think I'm okay. Maybe Lori and Joel, you may have another one. I hope not.
Nope, we're not doing that.
No more.
No.
But yes, so definitely just God's goodness and faithfulness to us.
Awesome. So what are you all looking forward to next year? What are you excited about?
I feel like I look forward towards continuing the good work that we're doing, but also some settling into a bit of a groove and understanding who we are and moving together towards vision. This year had a lot of change and newness for so many of us. I just look forward to settling in and continuing the journey and the good work. I think of the Bible curriculum that we've really been working hard on, and seeing some of that come to fruition and building together with teachers on things like that.
I'd have to say probably Christmas break, spring break, and summer vacation.
You sound like a high school student.
Yeah. Oh, wait, that was a grade 8 me.
Yeah.
I think some of the new initiatives, I'm super excited for the Los Angeles schedule, 555. I think it's an amazing balance between the linear options and need, and a hybrid semester type schedule, and offers flexibility for our senior students that we want to offer. I'm excited for morning flex and the opportunity for students to come in and work during that time. I think those are two pretty significant changes that are coming in. I would echo Lori on this as well too. Outside of some of those, I'm also very happy to have some settling, and then also some of the reaching back out of the school. So being able to leave our school building, and do that experiential, real world connecting that we want to do, and we've been able to get back into in the last few weeks or so. But when I think of some of the little trips and learning opportunities, there's a group going down to the airport and they're meeting pilots and learning about flight. And then there's, large scale stuff that'll be happening next year around international travel even, which really has been off the table for 2 years. So to bring that back, super excited about that.
Wondering if I could just add on to that, because
sure.
we just saw outside the window here, we had a bunch of KM1 students walking over with grade 11 drama students. And I just love that we can go back into those sorts of things. And so right now in this very moment, we have kindergarten grade 1 students in the drama room with grade 11 students, leading them through some performances and drama activities. And it's just so great to reach out into community and interact in a different way.
Yeah, that community feel will continue to come back to life as we imagine putting ourselves in different contexts internally in the school community and externally as well too. I'm really excited for the new curricular opportunities that we have. I'm really excited in particular about the high school grade 11, 12 courses. And so looking forward to having one of our new Bible teachers join the team and continue to develop that piece. And I think that's just going to filter down into the next couple of years of putting some of our curricular work into practice.
Yeah, and for me, I'm definitely looking forward to that same thing, just our rolling out of our new K-12 Bible curriculum, and especially getting into the SOGI discussions, discussions on race, some of these hard topics that we just have to have a voice on and talk to the kids about. And it's going to start with our middle school years, for sure.
Yeah, I think our Bible courses present a really important role and voice in that. They're Berkley, and of course the BC curriculum is what we are responsible to teach, and we want to be thinking faithfully about how to do this from thoughtful Christian faith-informed perspectives. And that Bible course, the Bible courses that we've developed, and the training that we're going to provide to our teachers, the ongoing collaboration is going to be another way to do so in this community in effective ways. So yeah, I'll throw it back over to the group. Any last thoughts to share or things that you are excited about for this next year?
I can think of one other thing that I'm excited about. I get the privilege, I get to teach a course at Trinity Western in the coming year. And these are things I love to learn and talk about, and just putting my feet in another academic world to continue to hone my own practice and also share it with new teachers, but to be able to bring that back to our campus as well and to partner with Trinity in that way is a really exciting opportunity.
Definitely. I think the depth of partnerships that we have, we're excited to speak a little bit about that in our podcast in the fall. We've got a couple authors that'll be joining us talking about Christian faith formation. We've got some of our Bible teachers that will be sharing in the podcast in the fall. We're hoping to invite our house directors to speak to a little bit of their work. So just the possibilities that exist of how we might encourage faith formation in partnership with our families is going to be abundant next year, and we look forward to unpacking that further. Joel, you look like you had a thought? No?
I'm excited. I'm coaching basketball again next year, so I'm excited for that. Kevin's going to be a co-coach with me, I think. Is that what we agreed upon?
Sure, I'm in. We just need to find childcare. This is partially an advertisement, I guess, as well at the same time.
Contact the central office for...
that's right. Yeah, no, that's great. Awesome. Well, it's really great to... did you want to share something?
Yeah, I was going to add something that really excited about some of our new hires, looking at some of our new grade level teams. I know thinking about our grade 6, 7 teams, some new bodies coming into there, and just forming those teams to function well. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be a great year of learning, of community, and taking on those initiatives. So yeah, this has been really great to have had each of the three of you here on our podcast episode. Really looking forward to the work that we have ahead of us next year. And thanks
just
for
want
tuning
to thank
in.
the listeners.
Yeah.
And remember that you can be interactive by contacting us at podcast@langleychristian.com if you have any questions. Thanks for listening.
See you in the fall.